What's up guys, it's the Chiefster here, back with another video. So we are going into the new year of 2022. I'm sure everybody is definitely sticking to their resolutions. And you might be wondering about work this year, especially gig work with the economy shaking up the way it is. Especially finding out that inflation is running like 7% or maybe even more than that. So you may be wondering in 2022, is delivery driving still worth it as a gig work job? Is it really gonna pay good money? Is it something that you should still be doing? And you may have experienced a slowdown no matter what if you've worked for DoorDash, Grubhub, or Uber Eats, which could cause you to wonder, is that just the company that's slowing down or is that delivery driving in general? Well, good news for you guys is that I put on my delivery driving lab coat. Okay, it was just a normal t-shirt, but I did a little experiment. So if you guys haven't seen yet, I did some videos on my channel. I'll have these linked down below in the description. But basically what I did was I did a video for Uber Eats, I did a video for Grubhub, and I did a video for DoorDash, all kind of comparing them to see where they're all at working on the weekend for 5 hours to see if they make decent money. And I don't want to give too much away about the videos because you guys should go check those out. But basically what I found out as a whole is they didn't make as good of money for sure as what they used to make. As a whole, I would say, at least in my area, the delivery driving market was making around $15 an hour after you take out your gas expense. And remember that $15 an hour was on peak days, so that's like weekends at dinner time. And now $15 an hour might not seem like it's too bad, but for me, with my experience with delivery driving in the past and being pretty good at knowing what orders to take and where to go to get the best money, $15 an hour was not very great. And I know this because just a year ago I was doing delivery driving, making between $25 to $30 an hour during those peak days and times. And not only has the pay slowed down, but also the orders have slowed down and there's a lot more waiting time, which leads to a lower per hour pay. Now I've heard from a bunch of you guys in the YouTube comments that yes, you guys have been noticing slowdowns in your area, you've been noticing lower pay in your area, but I will say that's not the case for every single person I've heard from. There are definitely some people who are saying they are making really good money in their areas, or their areas have actually been making more money. So some of that could just be case to case. Your area really matters for what you're gonna make, so you can't just see one person in one area and say, oh, it's not good. So you really do need to test it out to see if your area is still good or not. But I will say as a whole, it seems like most people are noticing that there's less orders and the pay is lower. And I will say things are not as bad as they were just months ago, because when things were really bad, I was making maybe like $10 an hour, and that's maybe $10 an hour. Sometimes it was even lower. So seeing $15 an hour kind of normally on these peak days was a little bit better and maybe somewhat more worth it. But the problem here is that there's a lot more expenses with delivery driving than what we used to have, or things have gotten a lot more expensive. And one of those first things that's gotten more expensive is obviously gas. I know just a few years ago, there were times I was filling up for around $1 a gallon, and now I'm seeing pretty consistently in my area $3 a gallon or more. So that's a 3 times the amount cost change in the gas price that we have to pay as delivery drivers. And sure, I will say the gas cost is actually not as big of an expense as you might think, and it still is probably not huge on how much you're getting paid, but with a 3 times increase, that definitely adds up. But speaking of gas prices, check down below in the description so you guys can sign up with my referral link for Get Upside, because that's a way that you can save money on gas. Okay, there's my shameless plug. I'm sorry, I had to say it. Another big thing that we've seen recently is inflation has gone up a lot, like I just said, and with that usually came raising wages. The problem though for us as gig work delivery drivers is I wouldn't say we really saw any kind of raise in wages across the board. So in a time where things are getting more and more expensive, we're not having much of a change in our pay, or it's actually going down. And one of the biggest problems is the fact that car depreciation now is sky high. And that's because cars have gotten so much more expensive. I don't know about you guys, but my Honda Civic went from being worth around $7,000 to now being worth around $11,000. So those miles I've been putting on my car, depreciating that car, are starting to cost me a lot more, and that's really one of the major concerns. And depreciation is one of those things that I think a lot of people don't fully weigh into the cost of doing this, and it's probably one of your biggest expenses. And all of this has been happening at the same time that it seems like pay has been going down per hour for delivery driving. So this stuff all makes it really hard to decide if it's still worth it to work for delivery driving companies like DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub. And I think what it makes you have to decide is this going to actually be worth your time for the amount of money you can make doing it? And that's a big question, because that means means you really have to weigh all the costs of delivery driving to see what you're going to make, because certain things like depreciation might not be as tangible and be harder to figure out how much that actually takes from your profits. And not to mention the fact that you have to compare, is doing this worth it compared to the other jobs that are available right now that are paying higher than they have before. So I will say there is a lot going against being a delivery driver right now, but there actually are some pretty big positives that I would say that you should look into to see if they make sense for you. And the biggest pro to delivery driving is, even if it's not making that much money, it still makes you side money for things that you might want. Now, I would say, as somebody coming from doing delivery driving full time and seeing that now, it's probably not usually possible to work this full time and make decent money in most regions of the country. It's a good idea to try to change your mindset of how much you're trying to make and how much you're trying to work doing delivery driving. And for me personally, I've really pivoted away from trying to work delivery driving to pay my bills to trying to do other things to pay my bills and work delivery driving on the side to pay for things like investing. A big reason here for this too is because with making the money I've been making, it doesn't seem as worth it, but if I'm going to take that money and put it into some kind of investment, that could be worth a lot more down the road, where this money now could have actually been worth a lot more because it gets me there down the road. Now, of course, that's all just a numbers game, and if I could make that money somewhere else, that probably makes more sense to do that and invest that. But you don't always have the option to do something somewhere else, and delivery driving is one of those things that you can pick up fairly easily and flexible with working other jobs. But a big reason for why I like to use that money to invest right now is just because it keeps me motivated, wanting to go out and work and make that money. Not to mention, it kind of makes the job a little less stressful, and it makes me a little more happy while I'm working, knowing that I'm going to be able to put that money into an investment. And maybe not everybody is going to feel that same way, but I did do a video where I just worked at DoorDash to buy Bitcoin that you guys should check out. That was honestly pretty fun. It was probably one of the most fun days I've had, actually going out and working to buy Bitcoin and actually recording myself doing that. But really, I think what that came down to is motivation, and that's where you need to find what's going to motivate you to do it. And is delivery driving, making the lower pay that it is now compared to what it was, is that actually going to be worth your time? And you need to figure that out for yourself. And the next thing you might be asking is, will delivery driving ever go back to being good like it used to be? And my honest answer to that is, I actually kind of doubt it. I really kind of think that the heyday of delivery driving was more just in the earlier days of delivery driving, and things are really going to start to balance out at a lower price point, kind of like what we're seeing now. But I will say there are two things that could change the delivery driving industry and make it start paying more like it used to. The number one thing is a new company coming in that's going to do delivery driving that has more of a focus on having good drivers and providing quality service. Personally, I think that's one of the biggest problems in the delivery driving industry, is that you get so many bad drivers that aren't doing good, and you get so many bad customers who don't care to tip well. And if we could kind of work to kind of keep those people on DoorDash and put the good people on the other one, then that might work better. Of course, that's easier said than done, but if you've ever watched the video that Drew Gooden did, that I actually did a response to, talking about how delivery driving apps pretty much screw over everybody, you'll notice that there's a big problem in the industry that possibly could have a fix for it if some company can finally figure out how to do it better. And if a company can come in and find a way to actually bridge the gap between getting the customer their food fast and hot, which is pretty hard to do, and getting drivers that are actually going to get paid well and get customers that are actually going to tip well, then maybe that company will actually be able to make a big dent on the delivery driving market. Of course, all that's a lot easier said than done, and who knows if that's actually going to happen. And the number two thing that could actually raise wages again for delivery driving companies is if another massive gig work company comes along that's competing to take away all the employees that are already doing stuff like delivery driving for DoorDash. I think that's a very big possibility, that we'll see a company that's very gig work related and focused on flexible work that comes to the internet. And if you have a company that you can just work for sitting down at your computer at home and be able to make decent money, that's really going to compete with people wanting to work for delivery driving services where you have to use your car and actually go out and pick up and deliver orders. And to me, I think that that's probably something we will see within the next few years that will really stand out to compete with these big gig work companies of today like DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats. Because for right now, these gig work delivery driving companies kind of have the markets to themselves for flexible work, and they don't need to have to raise their wages because they'll still get people working for them. So if something better comes along, I see that as really the thing that's going to push them to have to raise their wages for their drivers. So basically, I would recommend keeping your eyes wide open, looking for those next gig work companies that are probably going to come just over the internet. Maybe even the crypto world. I don't know, maybe. In the end though, I think you have to decide if delivery driving is worth it for you in your own time. Even if it's not paying super well, maybe that little bit of extra pay you can have on the side is worth it. I know for me, that's basically what I'm doing because I can just pick it up whenever I want and use that money for investing. But also, like I always say, areas are different. So your area might still be good. You don't know. So make sure you test out that area before you just write it off and say that it's not going to be good and you shouldn't do delivery driving. And if you do decide to do it, then maybe think outside the box for how you can make it better or use that money to make it better. Just like for me, the investing makes it more fun, makes me more motivated to want to go out and do it. It makes the money more worthwhile. But also remember, when it comes to gig work delivery driving, that this is not a career and you're not actually in the delivery driving business. What you're actually in is the money making business. So don't get so caught up in the fact that you're trying to just focus on being a delivery driver, and try to actually stay focused on what other things are out there, what other gig work jobs could you pick up and do to make money. So keep your eyes wide open for those new gig work jobs that are going to be coming, and of course, let me know in the comments if you find them because I want to do them too. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful for you to decide if delivery driving is still worth it for you in 2022. I'm personally definitely still continuing to do some of it so that I can get money, like I said, for investing or just other things. But I'm always on the lookout for what new thing is coming and what could make better money than these delivery driving companies while still remaining flexible. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked the video, remember to do the cheapest thing you can today. Tap that like button. Also remember to subscribe to the channel for more stuff like this on making money, saving money, and investing money. And I will see you guys in the next video. And remember, stay cheap.
Hey, you better be saving that money. Don't you be spending it now. You're still here watching this? You might as well just subscribe. Why would you not at this point?